So you're being relocated to Atlanta, Georgia, or maybe you're just thinking about moving here and you don't know if you can afford it. Well, you're in luck, because in this video, I'm talking about housing costs, rental costs, transportation, utilities, healthcare, you name it, it's here. Check it out. What's up, guys? My name is Anthony LaBorde. I'm a local realtor here in Atlanta, Georgia. And before I get into the cost of living numbers, I want to put the city itself into perspective. And what I mean by that is when most people are moving to a new city or they're looking at the cost of living, the numbers that they look at is a current snapshot. It's the status quo of that city. It's the current price of gas, transportation, utilities, groceries. But what about future growth of that city? When you're looking at cost of living, most of the numbers don't show projected trends. Where's that city going? Atlanta, Georgia is the country's 9th largest metropolitan area, but we're also the 4th fastest growing metro. What that means is we're outpacing the top 10 cities. By 2050, check this out, by 2050, Atlanta is expected to have another 3 million people added to our population. Currently, we're at 5.8, almost 6 million people. That's gonna put us at 9 million people. What does that mean in jobs? That's 1.2 million new jobs for Atlantans. And part of the reason why this is that Atlanta is home to 21, check this out, 21 of the Fortune 500 companies are headquartered. Their world headquarters are here in Atlanta. 30 of the Fortune 1000 are headquartered here. That's crazy. We're talking about companies like Coca-Cola. Did you know Coca-Cola was invented in Atlanta? Coca-Cola, Delta, UPS, the Weather Channel, Genuine Auto Parts, SunTrust, the list goes on. We are home to 54 colleges and universities. Every industry that you can imagine is represented here. We have Georgia Tech, University of Georgia, West Georgia, Georgia Southern, Georgia State, Chattahoochee Tech, Southern Poly, Kennesaw State, Morehouse, Emory, medical, engineering, you name it, business, all represented here. All right, so why is this important to you and your family when you're moving here? Well, first of all, those 54 colleges and universities, they supply 140,000 jobs a year to Georgians. In addition to that, when you create an environment of prosperity like Atlanta has, and you make the tax codes beneficial to companies to come here and do business, then you add all this new talent coming in from these colleges and universities, new fresh ideas, all this energy being grown organically, all these companies recruiting here and keeping them here, it just assures and guarantees continued wealth, prosperity, growth for generations to come. All right, let's jump into the numbers, and I want to start with the question that comes up probably most often, and that is, what's the median home price there in Atlanta? How does that compare to the national average? And then how does it compare to the city that I'm relocating from? So as of December 20th, 2019, the average home price in America is just above $231,000. The average home price here in Atlanta is $259,000. Granted, slightly higher than the national average, but one thing to consider is what's the average salary in Atlanta? How does that compare to the national average? So currently the American worker on average is making about $57,000, give or take. The average worker here in Atlanta is making $67,000. Cha-ching! All right, so you got your nice cushy job, but maybe you're not ready to buy that home yet and you just want to rent and get the lay of the land. Although we're the 9th largest city in the US, we're 17th on the list of most expensive apartments. That means we fall way down the rankings. That's pretty good. Now, regarding the size of our apartments, we've recently been winning awards because we have some of the, on average, largest apartments in America. So here's an example, a studio apartment across the US, on average about 500 square feet. We average about 600 square feet. As for the rental prices, there's gonna be a slight variation between the rentals inside the city, inside 285 versus outside the city. But for a studio and 1 bedroom, those are very similar in size and prices. They're right at $1,000 regardless of where you're at. When you get up to a 2 bedroom, it's $1,250, $1,100-ish right in there. A 3 bedroom is $1,600, $1,450. So again, it's about a $150 difference there versus inside and out. And then a 4 bedroom is a little bit more. That's $1,750 outside the perimeter. And then it's right at $2,000, even quite a bit more than that in certain places inside the perimeter. Regarding our utility costs, if you recall back to the beginning of the video when I showed you the chart of the different categories and the cost of living, utilities was one of the higher ones. Atlanta is higher than the national average. Much of that has to do with our seasons. During the summertime, if you're not from the South, our summers can get pretty toasty. It's typically in the high 90s. We have pretty high humidity. It drives our AC costs up, our power costs up, and then vice versa in the wintertime. Typically, we have fairly mild winters, but because we're soft here in the South when it comes to cold weather, if it gets below 40 degrees, we jack up our heaters. That drives up our natural gas cost. Hence, we have high costs here. So checking out this comparison chart here, you can see the national average is just above $400. It's right at $412 a month. The Atlanta average is $480 a month. So again, slightly higher than the national average. And then as you break the chart down, you can see a one bedroom in Atlanta is just above $400 a month. For a family, a 4-bedroom and above is $650 and above. Now I personally live in a 4-bedroom home with 2 other adults. We pay about $700 a month, but again, we're not that conservative on our AC or running our heaters. All right, you got a nice place to live, you got a good paying job. What about your property taxes? So again, here in Georgia, we fall below the national average in terms of property tax rate. Our rate is 0.091, where the national average is 1.08. We pay about $1,450, that's $1,450 a year in property taxes. That's about $650 less than the national average. Now here's a good example. I personally live in Marietta, Georgia, so if I was to use my tax rate at 0.742 on a $250,000 home, I'd pay a little over $1,850 in taxes. The rest of the country pay about $2,700 in taxes. Now, in addition to property taxes, Atlanta also has an income tax and a sales tax. The sales tax is going to vary depending on the zip code that you're in, and it varies from 4% all the way up to 9%. If you're up in Northwest Atlanta, close to Austell, that gets down to the 4%. As you get closer into the city, midtown, downtown, that gets up to 8.99%. Now, the income tax is going to vary anywhere between 1% and 6% depending on how much you make. If you're an entrepreneur or a business owner and bring in more revenue, you get screwed. I mean, you have the honor of paying your fair share. All right, so you're working, you got a place to live, you're paying your taxes. What about transportation? What about getting around town? So if you choose to own your own car in Atlanta, our gas prices are below the national average. Currently, the national average is $256. I just filled up, and I'll show you here. I just filled up, and it is $228 or $227 for regular, $252 for plus, $283 for diesel. Again, we run on average throughout the year, whether it's the summer, doesn't matter the season, about 20% below the national average. We have excellent gas prices here. All right, so those are great gas prices, I agree. But if you recall back to the beginning of this video, we were looking at the different categories. Cost of living, transportation was one of the higher ones. There's a reason why. So there's no secret that here in Atlanta, we have a horrendous traffic problem. We as Atlantans spend more time in our vehicles in traffic than almost any other city. It's ridiculous. Because we spend so much time in our car and the costs do go up, we do have a solution. Here in Atlanta, we have public transportation, and it's called our MARTA system. It's a bus and rail system that runs throughout the city. It's over 1,400 miles of bus and rail. There's 101 stations, including the airport. If you live outside the perimeter, CCT and Gwinnett Transportation. CCT is our Cobb County transit system. It's a bus system that runs in between these rail stations. So if it's not easy to get to a MARTA, CCT or Gwinnett can get you there and get you into the city pretty quick. Regarding the rates for MARTA, it's $2.50 per one-way trip. You could also buy daily passes for $9. They have 2-day passes for $14. It gets cheaper as you go up, all the way up to a 7-day pass, which is $23. A 30-day pass is $95. That's unlimited rides with a 30-day pass. There's also a senior citizen discount, a student discount for university pass programs. I think it's $68 for a month for students. And then also a veterans discount. Atlanta also has taxi cabs. Now, unlike most big cities, the taxis here in Atlanta are very difficult to get a hold of. Unless you're at the airport or at the hotel, you're not gonna flag one down. If you live in downtown, midtown, and you wanna use the taxis, it's good to have a company and their number on you at all times. The reason why the taxis are very difficult here is that because Atlanta is a rideshare city. Uber and Lyft just dominate here. It doesn't matter if you're in the city, outside the city, the suburbs, one of those two companies is typically within 15 minutes away. Very easy to use. I have friends of mine that live in downtown and midtown, but they've given up their cars altogether. They say it's much cheaper just to use the ride share. It's not as much wear and tear on your vehicle. You don't have to pay for gas, you don't have to pay for parking, maintenance, etc. So ride share really dominates here. So the last thing that I want to talk about are Atlanta's healthcare costs. Now, unfortunately, we have some of the highest in the nation. A recent study was done of 53 metro areas where the least expensive city was ranked number 1, the most expensive was number 53. We were number 40. That's not good. That's way down the list. There's a number of factors that go into this. Number 1, we're a highly densely populated area with big monster hospitals that serve a lot of people. These hospitals join together in networks. They put a lot of pressure on the insurance companies. That's going to drive up costs. Unfortunately, here in Georgia, we also have a very high obesity rate. We have great food, but we fry everything and we put barbecue sauce on everything, and hence we have a high obesity rate. That's going to drive up costs. And then finally, we have some of the highest percentages of uninsured patients here in Georgia, and that's going to drive up costs. So again, hopefully the rest of this video has convinced you that Atlanta has so much more to offer, but this is one category that we're above the national average on. Good example is a blood test here in Atlanta is going to cost you about $150. In Augusta and Savannah, which is our sister cities here in the state, it's about $50. A mammogram, somebody has told me, is going to cost about $250 here in Atlanta, and you get in Savannah and Augusta and it's $150 and less. So there's quite a big difference between Atlanta and the rest of the state. Guys, thanks so much for joining me on this video. If you saw something that you liked or saw some value in it, please think about subscribing to my channel. Hit the like button. It does wonders for the YouTube algorithms. Also, if you've been to Atlanta, if you live here, if you have questions or comments, leave them below. I'd love to hear from you. I'll respond to every single one of them. And then, of course, if you are thinking about relocating to Atlanta or moving here and you have questions, please call me. I help people every single day move to our wonderful city. I get them situated. I know the city backwards and forwards, so we can get on the phone, talk about where you're gonna work, where you're going to school, where your kids are gonna do, what you like to do, and we will find you the right home. Thanks again for checking it out. Talk to you soon.